Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of the Dr. Keith Darrow podcast. I am honored to have with us today Dr. Erica Person, who is the host of her own podcast, the Unbundled Audiologist. You can see little plug up there for you, Dr. Erica. And she's also the owner and I believe the primary provider at Flex Audiology in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. I have to say, I've traveled a lot of the country. I don't think I've been anywhere near there.
Maybe. So thank you for having me on. It's about 25 minutes outside of Cincinnati. So maybe you've been.
Okay. All right. Okay. I have been close.
You've been
Deal.
close.
Actually, my family and I, pretty soon we're going to be heading off to do the donut tour in the southwest portion of Ohio. So I guess we'll be pretty close to you.
I'm going to check it out because I just talked on, I also do a YouTube show and we have a Southeastern fried chicken trail.
Ooh, that sounds awesome.
There was a donut trail though.
Oh yeah, there's a donut trail. It's like official. Like you get like stamps and at the end you get, I assume you get a t-shirt and probably a throw up bag because it's like 3 days and 14 donut shops. I'm
on that. Thank you so much. I'm actually writing that down right now.
Excellent. I can get you some of the details too. So, all right, before we get way off topic and people are like, I thought I was going to learn about unbundling and you guys are talking about food. No, this is not a food show. This really is for our community of like-minded hearing healthcare professionals that are striving to continue to help treat more of the 42 million people that go every day with untreated hearing loss. I've talked a lot on these episodes about my why, and really the first question I ask of every person who comes on here, and I keep my little tuning fork nearby because it's the shape of a Y, so it always reminds me to ask every guest, Dr. Person, what is your why? What is it that gets you out of bed every day that made you start a practice, start a podcast? What is your passion?
So I believe that two worlds can exist. One world in where hearing healthcare is affordable and accessible and patient-centered, and that will collide and be complementary to a world for private practice entrepreneurs that can be profitable and successful. And when I first started looking into unbundling, it was a don't ask, don't talk about it. If we did talk about it, it was very hard to get details. So my primary goal is to provide to the masses just stories about other people doing it and being able to talk about it and how easy it is, and really highlighting the fact that we can do both.
I agree wholeheartedly. I really do. Like, look, the reports still tell us that nearly 80% of people who do seek out hearing healthcare, who do seek help hearing better and more active aging, that they still go to private practice. And there's a whole host of reasons. That's probably its own episode. But I do agree with you wholeheartedly that yes, we need a world wherein private practice is the go-to. We get to offer the best practices, no shortcuts. We take as much time as needed, and it's affordable, right? Because that is the stigma. That is, although there's arguments as to why it may not be extremely or always valid, most people will tell you the reason they do nothing about their hearing loss is price. And so you figured out a way to do Unbundle. Tell me about that journey, because you're right. It's even still, I think you do it every day. So you may think we all understand it, but I don't think enough people really understand it. So just sort of from ground up, tell me what Unbundled means.
To me, it's really, one, it's valuing what you do. It's providing best practices and then charging appropriate services for that. And when you do all of that, you can actually take a step back and your overall cost to the patient is less, but your billable hour can actually be higher. So for example,
so what I just heard you say is you can figure out a way to be the cheapest for your patient's sake, yet still generate the highest revenue per patient.
Absolutely. And I feel like the reason we're not doing it is just simply fear of the unknown, of trying to figure that out. And so I have stopped and I've looked at more of I'm not looking at profit per patient per se. I mean, I guess you could if you looked over time, but I'm looking at profit per day. So to me, if I have 10 to 15 to 20 patients coming in that day, I know I'm collecting from almost everyone.
Excellent.
That day. And so now I've got daily monetary goals versus I don't have to sit there and say, oh, how many hearing aid evaluations do I have in my schedule? Let's make sure I've got 2 a day. Let's make sure I've got 3 a day so I can convert 60 to 70, 80%, whatever that number is. The KPIs just become less stressful.
And right, there's KPIs are one of those things that people sort of swear by. But I mean, my biggest thing with KPIs is they're a backwards looking number, right? They're what's happened in the past. And my group, our consulting group, we're always thinking future bank. And I love what you're saying, which is I can just look at the schedule. No, I have 10 patients coming in. Now I know I have 10 revenue generating opportunities. They're not $7,000 each. That's not what we're suggesting, but this is a steady stream of recurring revenue, so long as you keep the patients coming back in. I mean, how many times have you seen a practice where they'll go 3 days in a row with back to back free clean-in checks? Guys, you didn't make any money the last 3 days. We have a problem.
Yeah. And I love that it's just not exclusive to hearing aids. So that's one of the other things is it really starts allowing you to look at what services that you're going to offer and be able to offer. So something as simple as the Redux or the Cognivue or auditory training or, anything really, because now we're not looking at, hey, we're going to add this to our practice, but I'm not going to generate any additional revenue for it. Like every single thing that you learn just builds and adds on to it. And so the profit comes very, very quickly. And there's some of the arguments that I hear from providers is just simply, well, they're not going to come back if they have to pay for their 6-month appointment or I want to see them 4 times a year. They're just not going to come back. And I have not found that to be true. And most of the people that are successfully doing unbundling would argue against that point.
So if you don't have anything special to offer them, if you don't provide a value at that 4-6-month checkup, then they won't come.
Yes.
I would agree with that wholeheartedly, that if you're not going to provide a value, then why should they come? And that actually is, I love what you say, which is what they're really doing without admitting it. Maybe they don't even know it, is their own fear. They're letting you, the provider is letting you into their own psyche of, I don't believe I provide a value that's worth $30 or $100. My clean and check, sometimes they take me 5 minutes. Okay. What value did you provide in those 5 minutes? I'm not suggesting there's a 5-minute or even a 30-minute perfect clean and check, but the value you provide is what it's all about. And so how have you been able to, I guess, did your practice start bundled, become unbundled? Was there a transition?
So I used to own 4 clinics in another state, and I was fully bundled at that time. And full disclosure, I charged a premium. And I'm going to look at you and tell you, looking back, I was a bad audiologist, 100%. Because
why? I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have to know why you think that.
I'm super blunt here. So it's exactly how I felt, to where, okay, well, yes, I can buy all these test box measures, but in the end, if it doesn't work, I'm just going to send it back. Some of my providers used Really, some of them didn't, because again, it was the cost of the machines. And since I wasn't charging extra for it, I was more being a business owner and just looking at not correct data. I could argue now.
Okay.
My clean and check for exactly what you said. 5 minutes. Hey, Mrs. So-and-so, let's chit chat for 25 minutes versus actually doing the things you need to do to make sure their system's functioning correctly. At least that's how I feel Versus now, my 6-month check is we're throwing in the redux. We are verifying settings. We are looking for firmware upgrades, cleaning out ears. I'm not saying I didn't do any of that with patients, but I wasn't consistently doing it. And I didn't.
I love what you say, which is your business mind was focused on let's just be really honest here. I got to sell this person a hearing aid and we'll figure the rest out. And when they come back in, I'll do what's right, but will I really spend enough time with them? Because what if there's a potential new paying patient coming in right after them? Should I rush them out? I get what you're saying with the stresses of, and that's, see what we've done, because I think what's great here is you have a completely unbundled model. I have a completely bundled model, but I would bet if we put our processes up against each other, you would see that they're 99% similar, right? You've already thrown out words like Redux. Redux is sponsoring our upcoming neuroscience boot camp. We work very closely with them. So we provide that value for our patients. Cognivue. So our bundled, we actually do lay out everything. So I think there is a way, and that's why I said I'm perfectly fine with choosing bundled or unbundled. Whatever you do, please provide the value to the patient. Please have a process in place, which, look, you're a clean and check, Redux, firmware updates, like lay this stuff out. Don't just make it a conversation, clean some wax out and, send, old Betty on her way.
Yeah. And that's what I hear. And I think sometimes when people start unbundling, you got to do it for the right reasons, right? Don't unbundle because you feel like you have to have lower prices. Like, to me, I'm doing it because I feel like it makes me more profitable and it forces me to be a better audiologist. However, there are some people, like when we really break down what they do, they're like, Erica, I can't come up with all this money. Like they don't see it. And that's when I'm looking at them going, well, then you're probably not following best practices. You're probably not doing all the things that you could be doing to provide an amazing experience, which is why I see a ton of patients that are on their second and third hearing aid. Well, one, that's super easy for me. I'm like, yes, I will totally help you. And then it's just a matter of, well, how often did you go back? What'd they do?
So the analogy, or at least the story that pops into mind, and this was pretty recent. I was traveling and I was with a client and we were talking with the entire team. They had a pretty large team in the New York area. And I don't even remember how it came up, but I said something about, well, when you're doing otoacoustic emissions, and the whole team looked at me and I could tell there was this fright in their eyes. And I said, whoa, stop. Why are you guys looking at me like this? They didn't say anything. So I said, are you guys doing otoacoustic emissions? They just shook their head and said no. And I looked right at the owner and I said, what's going on? If we're here to talk about best practices, if we're here to talk about providing more value to patients, just what's going on? Well, that's a business decision. We have to talk about that. It's pretty expensive. So you're not providing the value. Right. So this person who is providing bundled, and I don't know the numbers, but let's just say $7,000, they're not providing the value. So I really don't care if you're bundled or unbundled. I just need you to provide the value and do what's right by each patient. And so there's an example. Is that kind of what you were alluding to?
Yeah, because as a business owner, you are always looking at the cost of the equipment. And so if you're going to buy, an $8,000 OAE machine and you're getting reimbursed $36, it's a hard pill to swallow. And I get that. At the same time, it's a one-time purchase. And as time goes on, all of that stuff, it comes back. It comes back in patient referrals. It comes back in, you actually feel like you're practicing audiology. It's so much easier to add more services. And the thing too, that I feel like people get caught up in is it comes down to insurance. And we have to get past.
You just took the words out of my mouth, which is now talk to me about unbundled and insurance, because everybody who's listening is saying, well, what about insurance?
Yeah. And we have to get past the mentality that insurance pays for everything. And once you can move past that and understand that it is a benefit that's going to help pay for some things, but not everything, then it becomes even easier to do.
Because now it's just to come up with a scenario, Federal Blue Cross Blue Shield, let's say they give you the $2,500. Okay, we can put that towards the purchase of the technology and maybe it'll cover it, whatever the pricing is. But now the rest of it, when you come in and we do cognitive testing and we do firmware updates and we do cleanings and we do real ear testing, I almost said nickel and dime, but that's not what I mean. We're going to charge you for the services that we provide, and rightfully so.
And I'm glad you said that, because that's what I hear. Oh, I'm nickel and diming the patient. And that's a huge difference when you're discussing with the patient and saying, hey, this is great. Your insurance is going to pay $2,500 toward premium technology, and it's going to be covered because I'm unbundled. So that's what it's going to pay. Here are the services that are going to go along with it, which will be your out-of-pocket cost. It's a huge different conversation other than not having it. And then as they come in, you're like, hey, look, you got to pay an extra, $8,000 to $2,000, depending on what people charge in order to fit the hearing aid. So it's just simply having a very easy conversation up front. It's the same conversation that bundled practice is having.
Of course it is. Of course it is. It's just a matter of how you want to do it, right? I mean, our bundled is really, we have more of a monthly membership program, right? So at our practices, we have a 4-year membership program, which is broken down into low affordable monthly payments. And these are the services that we are going to provide you over the next 4 years. And you already started to list some. Mm-hmm. However, if you look at a patient and say, it costs $7,000 today, and yeah, we'll do cleaning checks and I'll test your hearing every year. I really believe that's where we get a bit of a bad rep. I think because people don't understand the true value. And I like that you're just flat out putting a dollar sign to this is what this cost, period. Now, do you get kickback, right? I mean, look, like every town, I did a quick Google search. And when I looked up your practice, I could see, I think it was 3 practices in like a small, 2-mile radius from you.
Yeah.
Are you getting kickback? Are some people saying they prefer the other way? They prefer your way? What has that been like for you?
Great question. It's actually one of the very first things that we talk about. So the way that I was taught in business was from the first moment when you meet somebody, is to discuss why you're different. Why thank you for choosing us. This is how we're different. This is what we do differently. And so I'm almost having the conversation up front. So that way, when we get to the portion of talking about solutions, then it's just a lot easier. So if I already know they're on their second or third set of hearing aids, it's just very easy to say, did you prefer the concierge kind of type of service where you come in? Because if you do, then we're going to talk service plans right now and just get it out of the way. And most of them, I think I have 3 people on a service plan in 5 years. So
okay. I don't know if I'm surprised. I guess I didn't know what to expect. So
I don't change anything. I'm assuming you're pre-scheduling them to come in, right? They don't leave the office. So the process is the same, exactly like you're saying. If we compared, our process is probably super similar.
Mm-hmm.
It's just now we're prepping them. So I haven't had any, at least I don't, if I've had pushback, I haven't seen them in person yet.
Well, I guess, so tell me, so you said 3 out of 5 years. So super small percentage, right? Yeah. What are the other people doing? They're just saying, I'll pay as I go. And then you said it, so I'm going to call you on it. What is your retention rate? I assume you've crunched the numbers and said, okay, I started X number of patients in 2020. How many of them are still coming in on a regular basis, or some number like that?
So I probably send out, I haven't actually shockingly pulled that number. 2 reasons. Okay. One is I used to actually not encourage people to come back, which sounds terrible, but I was playing around with some different models, and I was like, call me when you have a problem.
Okay.
Right up first 2 years.
Okay. Hey, we learned from our mistakes.
Yeah. Now, since I've started it, we probably have somewhere between 30 to 40 letters that go out each month where I'm encouraging people to come back for maintenance. I actually haven't pulled the percentage though. So anything I told you I'd be making up, but
well, no, we don't need that. No, I ask because I mean, look, it's not me. Like you, I'm an audiologist. I love science. I love clinical care. Running a business I was never taught it. I'm just one of these crazy people, like all of us business owners who say, I can do it better. I know I can, and I'll just figure it out as I go. And so only because I have a business partner who literally has an MBA in business and marketing, I know some of the numbers, which is in our practices, and we're everywhere from central Massachusetts down through southern Utah, we have practices that have over an 82 to 86% retention rate, meaning we don't schedule a 3-month checkup, a clean and check. We have them come in on their own. We have somebody who's set aside specifically for that. And about 85% of patients come in every 3 months, right? Because they're paying that monthly service, because they're part of this membership. It's part of their program. They know the value in it. When we've looked at other practices and really crunched the numbers, when there's not such a strong value there, that number can be as low as 30 to 50%. So people are just dropping off. So something worth looking into. I wouldn't know how to find the number.
They got monetarily value each month into that. So there's a huge difference if somebody's paying a monthly membership fee versus the one and done in year 3. Are they still going to come because there's no perceived value there? Whereas I'm hearing you've created a process of said, look, paying a monthly fee, use it because you're paying for it.
Exactly. And so we lay out the benefits and the
unbundled is that, if I look at my schedule and I've got 8 maintenance on there, one, I'm super excited because it's going to be an easy day.
That's a good point.
I have very, very few no-shows, maybe 1 out of those 8. Whereas in the past in my bundled model, which I wasn't doing membership fees, I could have 2 or 3 no-shows. Because
that's what I mean. That's what I mean when you get into those much higher retention rates. And then you realize, well, they didn't come back at 6 months. And now where are they? And how dare me send them a letter at 3.5 years saying, hey, I didn't keep my promise the last 3.5 years. Why don't you come in and buy something new?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's wild, but it happens in our industry every day.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it.
So on your maintenance days, what do those look like? So they're basically scheduled out. You'll see somebody who's got a 3-month or maybe a 2-week follow-up. Is that what we mean by maintenance?
So I have my patients come back every 6 months and they can always call me if they need me before that. But at that 6-month mark, any type otoscopy, of course, any ear cleaning, I check for firmware updates. I put it in the Redux. I don't always do test box measures. I know some people believe every 6 months. I'm usually more of a year kind of girl, or if there's something, something that's not making sense. And then it just simply a matter of reprogramming if they need it. If I'm changing sizes of ear mole or, domes for whatever reason, throw in a real ear. I'm always prepping my patient. Look, once we're past that initial stage where they're happy, everybody's happy, I'm going to say you need to mentally prepare to be paying $150 to $250 a year on ongoing hearing care.
Okay.
It just kind of depends on what we're going to be doing that day.
And that's no real objection to that.
Nope.
I don't see why there would be. I mean, it's a small percentage to sort of maintain their technology, maintain their relationship, and then be say at the front of the line when something better, genuinely better comes out for them.
Yeah.
Do you find in terms of upgrades, right? Because that's one of those pockets of profitability that too many owners leave untapped. How do you do that with the unbundled model? How are you thinking about that?
So I usually, again, because it's one of the main questions you get, how long are these going to last? Right. I mean, that almost, at least everybody always asks me that. And so I'm always prepping them. Most people start looking around the 3 to 5 year mark. It just depends on what you want the hearing aids to do. But I've got hearing aids that are 8 or 9 years old. To me, when you're in an unbundled model, the upgrades aren't as important.
Okay.
Unless there has been a huge shift in technology, or I can do a demo. Look, there's no problem. Let's throw some demos on you. You're going to pay me for a programming fee. Let you try out the new stuff for a couple weeks.
Interesting. Okay. So they would pay for a 2-week trial.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love it. That's interesting.
For me, it has just taken any pressure off of having to have a bunch of upgrades. And it depends on how you look at it. Was there truly?
Well, I think I heard you say so long as they're coming in, you are continuing to collect money from them.
Yeah.
Upgrade or not.
Correct.
Okay.
So it's just that ongoing service, and then as long as, you start adding other full scope of practice into your facility, there's just less pressure on having to have units, which I think for anybody that has that concern about OTC or concern about the way the world's going, it's not going to crash. People are still going to come in. They still need our services. They still need prescription hearing aids. But there's not as much like, I got to be that takes the sales part out of it, which audiologists have a tough time with sales. Well, this takes it out.
That was very kind. I just go straight to audiologists suck at selling. Look, that is actually a good thing, right? Because it's not our job. It's not our passion. It's not what we were raised to do in school. And therefore we shouldn't really be that good at it. Yeah. But if we're good at treating and if we follow best practices, then it always works out. It always does. It always comes in the end. So I got 2 last questions for you. So I want to go back to the insurance thing, because this is a bit of a puzzle, right? So somebody comes in for their annual hearing test, and you're going to do cognitive view, you're going to do redux, you're going to do everything you need to. Give me an approximate cost of that visit.
So redux isn't covered by insurance. I charge.
Forget insurance for a second. Just tell me, what would that cost if I came in today and I don't even have insurance?
You're completely private pay. You're probably going to pay. I can tell you that I've never had that happen. So
sorry. Because maybe I'm just not asking the right question. So I'll let you handle it. I'm basically trying to come up with a scenario where I come in, I have basic Medicare, which is like $37 for a hearing test, and they ain't going to cover any of the other stuff. So I would imagine with all those things you're going to do for the patient, it's got to be somewhere near, let's say, $300. What do you do?
If they're new
you bill for the 37? Do you how does that work?
Yeah. So if they're new to me and they don't have hearing aids, their out of pocket is going to be around $200. Okay. That would be their out of pocket.
And then you'll bill the insurance for the 37 or whatever.
Whatever diagnostics I've done. Okay. But anything beyond that. Now, if they said, look, I'm coming from another practice, I want you to do, I was basically a brand new patient as well as refit my hearing aids, it could probably be closer to $500 or $600.
Okay.
Yeah.
But insurance will still only pay the $37 for the hearing test. They'll pay the rest out of pocket.
Correct. And I always look at it as a positive thing. Look, your insurance is going to cover a small portion of this. This is good.
It's not as if anybody's not used to that conversation, especially in the last decade. Insurance is covering less and less and less. Somehow insurance costs more and more and more, but that's a different conversation for a different day.
Absolutely. And then now it's just telling the patient up front, saying this is going to be my estimate. We don't know what we don't know when we get into this. You just got to understand that insurance doesn't cover this, and it's going to be out of pocket. And if you're really super, super price conscious, let me know. Unless as we walk through it, I'll tell you what, I'm always going to tell you what we're doing and why we're doing it, but I'll maybe push upon something a little bit harder than not. Sure.
So that explains a question, which I wasn't even thinking about asking, which is one of the things I hear all the time from practices is, what do I do about the new patient who got hearing aids a year ago down the street, but they want to come to my practice? Because I'm bundled, they didn't buy hearing aids from me. How do I handle this? Do I just take them on board for free and keep my fingers crossed until they buy a new hearing aid? Do I sell them a new hearing aid on day one, or do I tell them no? And I love with the unbundled option, it's just, these are our prices, no matter who you are.
Yeah. And I don't understand the concept of not taking care of somebody based on where they purchase their devices.
I agree.
I'll never understand that. And to me, as long as they're not locked, like a miracle ear, right? I can't help those people. But what I can do with those people, because I have a miracle ear in my location.
Yeah, I saw it on the map.
Yeah. And so what has happened is that they still come in. I still do everything like I normally do. I may do Realier on them, and I am writing down specifically what they need to do. I've had people come in and frankly, they just needed a TV connector, or they needed a different size dome. Well, if it's a dome and I'm doing Realier, I can change domes and fix their issue, right? I mean, that's a simple one, shockingly. But otherwise, I'm simply just telling him, look, you need to go in, get a shorter receiver because your hearing aid's flopping off. I can still pair it to their cell phone if I need to. I can still run it. Well, I don't really run aids and test box at their patient settings, but I can listen to it. I mean, I can do basic things with the patient, write it down and send them back and say, look, I know you're going to have to buy it from them. It's fine, but I charge for my time. And I think that's the difference, is that I'm not giving it away for free. So I'm doing all these things. I'm telling the patient what needs to happen. And I see that patient for the next hearing aid.
Because your time has a tremendous value, therefore tremendous worth, and should be paid for.
Absolutely.
And I couldn't agree with you more. And your little comment about sort of scratching your head, wondering why people do things the way they do. It's a very interesting industry. I think we've both seen that, the good, the bad, the ugly. But I think in general, I think we're at such a pivotal moment where, yes, OTC is here. Yes, it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, because now the spotlight's on us. Now we have to answer the question, why? Why should I come to you? Why should I invest in hearing healthcare, not just a widget from the internet, from Jeff Bezos, or from the big blue box store, right?
Yeah, I'm probably, I don't know, I'm super excited about some of the new stuff that's coming out. One, because I'm able to have better conversations with patients too. Mm-hmm. And I get it. You can't be a practice that's focused on everyone. And I have just chosen to be a practice dealing with people that are super price conscious. I think there is a huge market for concierge, a huge market. Yep. I mean, if you're successful, stick with it. Don't change. There's
42 million people.
Yes.
You can't help them all. Figure out what's right for you. Figure out what your time is worth, and go with it. And if you provide the right value, it always works out.
Yes.
It genuinely does. I've never seen anybody close who offers crappy service and crappy value. Correct. It's just not the way it happens.
So I do low income, and I love the new, kind of self-fitting hearing aids that are coming out, because that's going to provide them an option that maybe I had before. And, somebody that is lower income like that, we do start picking and choosing some of our services, right? We're having these, what is mission critical? What do we have?
I love what you're saying. And that's why I said it before. And for those that are watching or listening, genuinely, it's the first time Dr. Person and I have met. First time we've had a real conversation like this. And I enjoy the fact that we could have such different business models, but we have the same goals. And I at our practice, we have a very simple core value: treat every patient. I didn't say anything about money. I didn't say anything about, the ones who can afford it, treat only these. And that's why we have a nonprofit. And our nonprofit is able to treat patients with the best technology, small application fee, and they get treated like everybody else. They go through the entire concierge process, because you're right. It can't all be about money. It has to be about giving back to the community in whatever way. So I love what you're doing. Thank you so much for your time today. Do you have time for one more question?
Sure.
Okay. One more question, because I know people are going to ask this. So now, one of the things that bundled practices struggle with is when patient calls and says, hey, I'm looking for an appointment. What's this going to cost me? And for bundled, it's $3,000 to $7,000. And before they even get out the end, they click, hang up. So how does your team sort of answer that question, right? I call you up, Dr. Erica, you pick up, hi, Flex Audiology, how can we help you? I would love to come in. What's it going to cost me to get hearing aids?
Sure. So first, we're just going to talk about the process and what they're going to be expecting to pay during that initial consultation. So that's what all we're selling. We're not selling a hearing solution at that point. And then after that, if somebody says, what are the prices of your hearing aids? We say, do you have access to the internet? And they say, yeah. And we send them to our pricing page.
Love it.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure it's up there. I just revamped my website and it was supposed to be up there last week, but I've been out.
Well, a lot of people just went to your website, so I hope it's up and running.
So we actually have a pricing page that lists our common, what somebody's going to expect to pay. And then I'm also working on a page that is basically going to say, look, are you not ready for prescription hearing aids? And then it's going to go to my hearables page and maybe some essential hearing solutions that'll be less expensive. But my core value is along the lines of, don't tell me what I can't do. Tell me what I can do to treat the patient.
Love it.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for that insight. I am going to go visit that page, as a lot of people are. So hopefully it's up and running. But I have looked at your website. Go to Flex Audiology. I think anybody listening to this can really learn from your model and from your passion. And I love how your website really does lay out your uniques, what makes you different and why people would want to come to you. I love the testimonials that's on there. And I think it's one of those that people could potentially model their own after, assuming they are doing, some of the things you are. So thank you so much for your time today. So go to Flex Audiology. Of course, Dr. Erica Person is the host of the Unbundled podcast. So if this conversation intrigued you, I would suggest highly that you go over and listen to some of those episodes, learn more. And I assume people can reach out to you directly with more questions about unbundling.
Absolutely. Feel free to contact me. I'm an open book.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Person. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Take care.